If you just go down, that's Ross.
Like if you want to do Liz, then you have to do like over the top.
Yeah.
A little bit like
Catty
this,
corner.
like,
That's Kelsey. Ross? No, your hand.
Ross, there, right there.
Ross.
Oh, right there. Warm. It's cold, warm. That way.
Yeah.
Too far, Ross. Oh my God. Point directly to the corner of your screen. Wait, who am I doing? Ross. That's Ross.
That's Liz.
Wait.
Yeah, I don't know what order we're going yet.
Ross
That's Frank.
Okay.
Oh.
Ross and I already did
And
this.
that's Kelsey.
Yay! And this is what, Ross? What is it, Ross? What is it? Oh my God, what is it,
tell
Ross?
us.
Oh my
Head in the
God.
clouds.
Head in the clouds.
What?
Who's in Ross's
Great delivery.
apartment? There was just a ghost walking across.
The reflection
In
in
the
the
mirror?
picture? Ross, you have ghosts in
Whoa.
your apartment?
I do.
They're out early today.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're so excited about having Ross and Kelsey in our episode again today. We're going to talk about some awesome book cover artwork that both Ross and Kelsey illustrated concepts for, and we're really excited to show them off and hear all about their process and what they were thinking when they drew this stuff. So, here we go.
So we are going to go through 2 different designs for a book cover project that we did earlier this year.
The point of the book was it was a report on the future of missions. This company, this client, what they do is they do surveys and research and all kinds of stuff to find out information about churches in America, and then they release those as reports. And so this report happens to be about the future of missions in the world.
In this project, we had the creative brief, and then we thought it would be fun to let both of our designers come up with concepts. We want to go through each of their ideas, and we're going to take you through and just show you how one creative brief can deliver 2 totally different concepts, and they're both amazing. That's why we're doing an episode about it. So here we go.
When we first presented concepts to the client, the first thing we did was present some mood board ideas of things, and so that's what these are. This was our first concept that we shared with the client that they really loved, and so you see that it's concept 2, and it's because we presented 3 of them, and so they chose concept 2 from the mood boards, and this is the mood board that we put together for concept 2. And then for the third concept, we did something that's called We Know in Part, and it included a lot of transparencies and a lot of like looking through windows or looking through landscapes of some kind. And so it's kind of that idea of the trompe l'oeil, I think. Right, Ross?
Right.
Yeah. See, I knew I was right. So then, book cover design. So here's where we presented the actual cover design. And our first option that we want to show you for the book cover is Ross's artwork. And it's based off of that mood board 3 that we showed you earlier in the presentation. And Ross, take it away.
All right, so with this option, we wanted to do something kind of more geometric and kind of like vector-based, because they have like a series of like other books that are a little bit more clean cut as far as like their designs go. So I kind of wanted to take that idea and kind of add like a certain amount of like layering to it, and really like the idea that Liz had of like someone peering through a window, kind of like a symbolic view of what the future of missions is. And the client also really liked the mood board like color palette, which is very similar to like what we have here with kind of like the darker colors, and kind of brought a little bit more like mystery to like what the book cover is. So we have kind of like someone peering through a window who's like on a laptop, kind of like looking at data and like things like that, like kind of like the research that the book is about into, kind of like the future of what missions is. So you see like kind of like a church within like this landscape of different buildings that are like symbolic of different places on the world. So there's like buildings from China and from Europe and from America. As someone like who's like kind of like spread his message, he has like a flame above his head. So I really want to just layer a lot of like imagery on top of one another and keep it like very symbolic and kind of like vague, maybe like create some interest for someone who is like looking at the book cover and might be curious from the title as to what the book could be about. And I kind of wanted to try to kind of draw the viewer in that way, and kind of use this. And we talked a lot, Liz and I talked a lot about this like heavy contrast between kind of like the light and like what's going on with the figures, and kind of keep using the church as like the central point. While it's kind of a very like complex kind of illustration, there's like a lot of layers to it. I really wanted to like keep a central element to like direct the intention, like in a little bit more of a focused way. So yeah, and it was fun to like work with a lot of gradients and things like that to kind of like create imagery out of the negative space.
Yeah.
For this one.
I think like the overall concept of this was being able to peer into a potential future that a young student who is who's working on a degree to become a pastor or is maybe in seminary, we are trying to shed some light on what their potential future could be if they choose to go into missionary work. And so that's kind of the whole concept behind the window, and that's why Ross, put in buildings from different countries, but then we also have the social media and the digital aspect in there too, because that's obviously going to change the game for what missionary work looks like, and so that's really kind of the problem that we were trying to solve here. And so the character in this would be the young pastor or young student who's looking to become a missionary pastor.
I just love all the depth on here and that abstract component to it. And just seeing Ross develop this concept from just initial sketches to the final product was super awesome. And it's one of my favorite designs Ross has done. It was super cool.
How did you come up with the idea to do the buildings, like well-known buildings from other countries? Like, why would you not show people or something else?
With so many things going on, like we have like the foreground and then like the things in the distance, which are like what you're actually supposed to be focusing on. Buildings seem to be like the best way to like communicate as much as possible in the most concise like visual form.
Communicate what?
It's like a message of like the global community in the quickest visual form as possible.
Yeah. What about the computer screen? What's on that?
I think there's a globe icon on there.
Oh.
Just kind of like, again,
reinforcing
the digital, like kind of moving forward in the digital age in, maybe a field that isn't necessarily known for the digital age.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like some of the techniques you use, like gradients and stuff. So what other techniques or styles did you use when you were creating this?
Just kind of like trying to draw out, kind of bring out like the contours of the objects in the foreground, and kind of suggesting form as opposed to like outlining everything.
Like I love when you're talking about outlines or like just all those tiny little like on the leaves or on the shoulder or on the like how it's not so concise, like it just kind of gives you that illusion through gradient, like what is there. I just think it's very well done.
Oh yeah.
And I have to say, as a side note, Ross has, if you don't know his work, which you should go check out at Ross Fino on Instagram.
Fino.
He has a knack for characters and like if that's the right design term.
Yeah.
So I love that was included in with his concept.
Like, it's such a simple design, but yet it has so many tiny little details that you have thought through. And
Yeah, it's like clean, but it's really complex.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. The shading on the pot, on the plant, is my absolute favorite. It's so subtle and like so perfectly well done. It makes my heart happy. It's just so peaceful. There is something very peaceful about the whole concept altogether, I think.
Yeah, to be able to not even fully design every leaf, but your eye knows what it is. Your eye can fill it in. And I think that is a true talented designer to pull that off.
Thanks.
Okay.
I just noticed that the lines all point at the church, which was like
Whoa.
probably intentional on some level, but
Like
it's like the vibes like kind of like
subconscious.
coming from.
Yes, it was totally subconscious. That's one of my favorite things about our subconscious, is that as designers, I think we design things intuitively, and like we don't even know when we're hitting something right, and like it just comes out at some point just because of that intuition that we follow as designers. Okay, I would say a big round of applause for Ross.
Thanks.
A personal win and a win with the client, because
They had a really hard
Yeah.
time choosing which one to go with.
That's
Okay.
always a good sign.
Yeah, it is. Now we're moving into Kelsey's concept for the problem is the same. We're still talking to potential students who are going into potential, oh my God.
Potential.
We're speaking to young students who are possibly going into the mission field in their future. So, Kelsey.
Take us on a journey.
what I thought about was trying to put myself in the shoes of the young student, and kind of like their path, what they have, like what they will experience, and then like, you know, like what's in their head at that stage in life. And I think that like when you're a young person going to any sort of doing any sort of schooling, you kind of have this like big, broad, you know, like there's so many options throughout the world. And there's so much reach that I can potentially have. And so that was the idea, was essentially just making, like I intentionally made that tiny little person at the top tiny, because they will be it's kind of like almost how much reach they could have, and essentially putting them in a place where they're at the beginning of their journey, like this person looks like they're starting. That's where the concept came from.
Yeah, I love it. So what is she doing?
So she's sowing seeds.
Oh.
And essentially building, growing and building and growing other people is kind of, and building and growing the world with her mission. Since this, the mood board for this one was a little more organic and a little more, you know, flowery, and that's just something I enjoy doing. That's kind of where those flourishing elements came into play.
Yeah, no, I just love all of the symbolism here too, like with the seeds, and then with the floral stuff coming up over the globe, showing that the seeds that you plant are going to flourish and grow all over the world. And sometimes the seeds that you plant, you don't even see the end result down the line, but it still makes a difference. And that was just something that came to mind when I first saw it. And then another plug for Kelsey, that definitely is a trademark, I would say, for you, is that floral and like organic and whimsical imagery. It's like so beautiful. So I love that you were able to tie that in and use your personal
Style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to make this come to life. At Kelsey Schofield Create to see more.
Here it is, mocked up as a book cover. So talk to me about kind of your choices of color on this.
Yeah, I went for something pretty bright, pretty in your face. Let me give context too, because these actually aren't the colors that we ended up with.
Yeah.
This was like an initial option for colors. After discussing, doing kind of like a debrief with the client, we wanted to do some more like softer, muted colors.
But we also wanted to, I think, bring in a little bit of a sense of surrealism or something. You know, something that is like, it's obviously not, that the world is obviously not hot pink. But I think like bringing in some of those bolder choices kind of helps, I think, reinforce the whimsical, flowy nature of the foliage itself.
I think my favorite thing about the symbolism is how it's like a very like sublime, like kind of message when you start from like the top and you see like a very small person and like the scale of the world. And, you know, it's kind of like the theme of like a lot of like kind of like fine art is that it's just like the scariness of the world and how that kind of like is juxtaposed with like this like very flowery imagery and like how you can like make a difference and despite that being the case.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ross. What you think is only sowing seeds, the world gets the fruit of that labor, I would say.
And it's a cool way to show like it might be scary to go out into the world, but it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So what kind of techniques and stuff did you use, Kelsey?
So I did all of this in Procreate and with some kind of like organic brushes. That's essentially how I designed it, and then brought in like the middle graphic into Illustrator and used type for the title and subtitle of the book.
What about the shading on some of the leaves and stuff? How did you do that?
That was all in Procreate with some shading brushes.
Cool.
What is your favorite part about this?
I like the little tiny person. That's my favorite part.
I like her pink hair.
Yeah, I just love how one idea can create such different yet amazing results.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was fun for me, I think, was like the getting to see the different interpretations.
Yeah. So the client chose the first option over here. Like Kelsey mentioned earlier, there were some revisions made, but they did have to deliberate for quite a while because obviously they're amazing. Both of them are amazing. And so, but they ended up choosing option 1 because they really liked the organic feel that it had. Any parting thoughts, Kelsey and Ross?
I just thought it was super fun to work on like the same project in like a really short time frame for like a book cover. Because book cover is super fun, and you can really like get very like kind of deep and mysterious with it.
Now it's time, everybody, for Day Cloud Fails! What? Here's our bumper video.
Roll it. Liz should start.
Okay, I can start.
Yours goes along with what we were just saying.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Forgetting your train of thought.
Okay, you guys. So picture this. It's year 2 of Day Cloud Studios being in existence. And little introverted Liz was leaving a voicemail for actually, I don't remember who the client was, but it was definitely like either a client or a prospect. And so I was leaving them a voicemail, and we all know that as millennials and younger, we all hate talking on the phone. And so it was like everything I could do just to like be on the phone. And I was, sweating and shaking the whole time because I was having so much anxiety about it. So I was on the phone with them, leaving a voicemail, and I said, blah, 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 blah. You can call me at... And I completely blanked on what my phone number was. Had no idea. No clue. So I just hung up the phone and pretended like I lost connection with them, hoping that that's what they would think and that they wouldn't know that I just hung up the phone on them.
You call back 2 seconds later and you're like,
Did you call back?
No. And I honestly don't know if they ever called me back. I'm sure they didn't because they didn't have my phone number. Oh my gosh. So from that day on, Michaela, my first employee, Michaela Frost, wrote on a sticky note my actual phone number and put it on my computer on my desk so that would never happen again. So that I would not forget my phone number when I'm leaving a voicemail.
Yeah. So I think it was like right after I got hired at JCloud, first young designer in the new world. And I think it was we had like this kind of a publication for like a school. It was a relatively big project at the time. And so I tried to say something, stay up real late at night doing it. It was a super quick turnaround. And then they just didn't like it. And then they asked for some edits or us to take another stab at it. So took another stab at it. They came back to us and said, just never mind, we're good. I don't think we ever finished it. And it was like one of my first projects ever.
Oh,
we did a lot of growing after those projects.
Yeah, it was primarily Russ who fixed our bad process. So maybe that was...
Probably because I couldn't think.
Yeah.
Because I messed up the worst.
Ross, I don't reject you. I think your work is awesome and you've come a long ways and I think you've done great. Mm-hmm. You're a hero designer in my book.
Wow, thanks.
You're welcome.
Suri, play Enrique Iglesias' Hero.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Kelsey, what do you got?
Oh, I think I have a lot.
Me too.
I think one of the funniest ones was when was designing a website and so part of what we do is we put in like all the typography, all the fonts, all the colors, all the assets that the developer will need. And like one of the things we do is we write out like the font size. And I like got so confused because like all of my numbers were like quadrupled. Like it was like 56 point font and for like a website. And
for
I was
body
like,
copy.
what the heck is
56 point font for body copy.
for body copy?
Because we were like,
what is happening? I was like, Kelsey, your whole website was designed in Superscript.
Oh my god. She designed the entire website, like pages of it, all in Superscript type.
Oh my god, and I was just so embarrassed.
What is
like
that?
Superscript, you know how it's like you have a 1 and then the TH is like little above it?
Uh-huh.
She designed the entire website in that Superscript.
Oh, in the tiny.
In the tiny. Yes. Did you go back and fix the whole file?
Oh yeah.
I couldn't remember if we just gave it to the developer and said, hey, everything's in Superscript. Good luck.
No.
I was going through a client presentation the other day and I had I had to do a screen share because we're all on Zoom, you know. And I was like going through and I'm presenting and like scrolling and then we get to like one piece and I realized I have the old presentation that wasn't updated. So I just kept scrolling past.
Just moving on.
And then I, on the side, slacked Michaela, our project manager, and was like, hey, can you send me the updated file? And she was like, sure. And she's also on this meeting. And then, so for like the Q&A, then I just dragged the new one onto my screen really quick so that I had the actual updated presentation. Because it was
Oh
like
my
that
gosh.
morning we were still making edits to it.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I just like clicked the presentation,
Thinking
but it was the old
right.
one. And I'm like literally talking and I'm like, oh,
Wrong.
that's not
Wrong.
true.
That's all we have for you guys today. Thanks so much for watching. If you feel like it, feel free to comment your fails that you've had as a creative agency or as an individual designer, whatever it is. Feel free to, write that out so we don't feel so bad about what we did.
Like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on our future videos. Leave us some comments of any other videos you want to see us chat about, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.